Welcome to today's episode of Trish Show 10. Talk to you about how to build muscle and how to build muscle fast. So, in the last 5 months, I have gained 17 kilos in body weight. Obviously, some of that is body fat, but some of that is muscle. I'm going to tell you trial tribulations, what's worked, what's not worked, and my plan to continue growing. So, I competed at 90 kilos today. I weighed in 108. I'm surprised I'm still gaining weight. I'm actually gaining weight with a lot less food than I anticipated I actually need to eat. Now, the reality is when it comes to building muscle, we've got two things we need to focus on. One is training, two is nutrition, three is recovery. If you neglect one of these, it's going to bite you in the arse. Now, if we look at instead, I'll talk about recovery first. Probably 2 weeks ago, I was really stressed with work, super busy, and I was neglecting recovery. I wasn't sleeping enough, wasn't getting any body treatment done, like deep tissue work, physio, and my body just started to fall apart. I started getting pins and needles in my hand, which I still have, and caused a lot of problems. So one of the key things as your body gets bigger, you get stronger, you're putting a lot more force through your joints, your muscles, and you're gaining so much strength that this is increasing demands on your body. Plus, let alone the actual physical demands of like strength in your body, in terms of like the extra tissue that you're putting around into the back, into like the sacs that contain the muscle, onto the joints. All of these spaces in your body are like going to get crowded, and that's why it's really important if you're looking to gain like a lot of muscle tissue to make sure you get treatment and therapy to get muscle released. Because a muscle that's really tight is not going to be optimal for performance or for building muscle mass. Now, for performance and building muscle mass, when we think about blood flow is a key thing, right? If blood flow is restricted because the muscle is knotted up and tightened and has like impingements in it, it will not optimally be able to perform in terms of strength output, and it will not optimally be able to grow. So if you think about it from that logical reason, that is a big thing that's going to help. So that's one thing that we focus on. Getting deep tissue work at least twice a week. I'm having to get that and dry needling, which is basically where you get a needle stuck in the muscle and you twinge it around to release impingements as well, since I've had a lot of issues come up the last 2 weeks. Third tool I've used is sauna, so heat. Now, I love ice bath and cryotherapy. Not that I have access to one in my building or where I live, but ice bath and cold therapy has a negative effect on hypertrophy and blunts the response of muscle building. So ideally, if you're looking to get jacked and build as much muscle as possible, this is something we want to avoid. What can help the recovery is this more simple thing, and that is heat. So I use a sauna, I try to use it like every day for 10-15 minutes, increases blood flow, sweats out toxins and shit in my body, generally makes you feel good. So I'm a big advocate of that. Another thing, if you live in a hot sunny climate, a big thing that's actually improved to increase muscle recovery and testosterone production is natural sunlight. So I try and sit outside 20 minutes, 30 minutes, get a bit of a tan on, read, and that again has been proven to increase the hypertrophy effects, which we're getting from our training stimulus and the food we're eating. So that's some recovery tips. When we talk about recovery as well, we also have to do one other thing, is sleep. So if you can try and sleep a bit more, this will aid in terms of your ability to build more body mass, muscle mass, and also your ability to recover harder, so you can train harder and you can train more frequently. Now, one of the big mistakes people make when they're looking to gain muscle mass is this: they think they need to train more. What you actually need to focus on is recovering more. So we're not using weight training as a way to burn calories, we're using it to burn as a stimulus, your muscle mass, right? So the main mechanisms of hypertrophy I would focus on are mechanical tension. So it's using heavy weight with good form and creating time under tension. So we have to remember that what we want to try and do is put some maximum tension to a muscle possible. So that's one thing. Second thing is going to be like a form of metabolic training, which is essentially like getting a pump of blood into the muscle. Mechanical tension will always convert, in my opinion, and it's easier to track. So, for example, if you're looking to build muscle mass, you should be tracking your lifts and you should be seeing progressions. And as your body weight comes up, you should see progressions in the weightlifting. Because very simply, mass moves mass. The heavier you are, the more force you can output. So this is a big thing you should be tracking. However, I have made this mistake. And this mistake is trying to progress weight and reps at all costs, where form starts to get a bit shit. So two exercises I would highlight that on, one would be a T-bar row, and the other one would be a leg press. I was leg pressing like 500 kilos, it's slightly retarded, and still doing like 25 reps. But my knees were starting to hurt, it wasn't quite as tight as form as I'd like. So what do you do in this scenario? This is what you do. So leg press, I probably reduce the load in half, and now I do a pause leg press. So I'll come down with the weight, 3 second negative, pause, fully stop at the bottom, and then push up. Now that pause really allows a lot to happen because you're physically having to use all the muscle fibers you have to slow the weight and stop it. And then you have to go again from a dead stop to push through. All that can work in that situation is the muscles you have. So if you ever struggle to develop any muscle group, I would try adding a pause in at the bottom of each rep, and that will force you to use the fibers that you don't want to use. Now, when it comes to T-bar row, essentially I just need to reduce the weight and not be a meathead. One of my favorite things sometimes in the training, if watch my stories, a friend of mine, George Armstrong and Shane, and it's basically like three guys with too much testosterone who just want to try and one up each other. Form gets a bit ropey, but every now and then it's a good thing to do just to like push you to your limits and try and push into it. But you don't want to do that every session. You want to try and focus on having decent form, decent output, decent connection to the muscle, and also not using too much load. Because if you're using more than 90% of your 1 rep max, statistically it's proven you can't consciously fire a muscle. Because what happens? Your fight or flight response kicks in. Your body is trying to basically not die, thinking like, I've got to move this heavy shit, otherwise I've got a problem, rather than you consciously trying to move the weight. So for example, if you have a really heavy barbell squat and you're trying to be aggressive to move it, chances are this is what's happening. You can't consciously contract your quads, hamstrings, glutes. You're just moving the weight for moving the weight's sake. And I feel that on some machines. So for example, there's a machine called a Prime Extreme Row. It's a back machine. I don't really feel anything in my back. Like I can't specifically tell you what moves what or what's contracting there. But I know what is contracting, but I can't really feel it. I feel fatigue from doing it, but I can't feel specifics. Whereas if I go onto a different machine, I feel that really in the muscle. In my opinion, that's going to be much more effective for hypertrophy. Now, when we look at setting up your training for maximal hypertrophy, we want to look at what's the goal of the physique. So we want to try and have the most frequency and volume on the body parts we need to improve the most. So for me, it'd be my hamstrings, lats, and triceps. So my hamstrings and back get a lot of training because they're the biggest body parts I need to improve. And we do this by using a specific split or adding in extra work on certain days. So for example, one of my back days, I have hamstring exercise at the start of it, to add in more frequency of my hamstring training. And this is a really easy way to manipulate your training to get better results at certain body parts. But what you have to remember is you can't prioritize all body parts at the same time. If you have a lagging body part, something specifically you want to work on, focus on that by adding in a bit more volume, a bit more frequency. The big thing I'd say most people make a mistake in the training is tempo. You need to go slow, slow to grow. You need to use less weight, move slower, contracting muscle, it will get bigger. Now, that's very much my thought process with training. And I also like to have routine. So I train at the same time every day, ideally in the same gym, same training partner, and then it gives you that stability in terms of you have a stable environment, and then it's down to you to perform at peak performance. And what peak performance for you means is just your max output. So you want to go to the gym, feel that you did your very best for the day, and you walk out of the gym proud of yourself. And that's the beauty of fitness and how you should feel after every single workout. Now, next up, we'll talk about nutrition and muscle building. Now, this is an expression I love, and it's an expression that is rather obvious when you think about it. You can't chase two rabbits at the same time. And this is what people try to do in fitness a lot, right? People try and they're building muscle, quote unquote, and then they're trying to burn body fat at the same time. The reality is you can't actually do that unless you're new to training or you come back from an injury or some unusual circumstance. For example, I can't build a lot of muscle mass and burn body fat at the same time. Even if I drug myself the nines like a Belgian blue ball capital, it wouldn't work. Like if you think about simple thermodynamics, to burn body fat, you have to be in a calorie deficit. To build muscle mass, you have to be in a calorie surplus. Your body has extra calories and resources to build new tissue. This is not just going to come from fucking thin air and be pulled in. So if we're looking to build muscle mass, what should our nutrition look like? Well, our nutrition should look very similar to like it does in the fat loss phase in terms of foods that digest really well. It's going to be even more important because you do not want to be eating junk food or getting your stomach bloated because you won't be able to eat and you will then be able to make minimal gains. And you also probably won't be hungry. Now, what I would suggest you want to do is you want to be in a surplus, probably about 500 calories to begin with. And if your weight or progress starts to plateau, you need to increase that. I've actually been in a weird scenario where since January, I haven't had to increase my calories. I'm doing about 4,500 a day, and my weight just keeps going up, which is good and bad. But one thing I have really struggled with is my appetite. So I'm starting to the point where like my diet's supposed to be 900 grams of rice a day. from just 3 of the meals, and I can't fucking look at a bowl of rice. So one of the things I've started to do is I would swap something like granola. Granola is the key for getting jacked because it's super calorie dense. I'll have that post training instead of rice because it's easy to eat. I like it. And I don't have to try and feel like I'm going to be sick on 4 times, feed down shitloads of rice. This is where digestive enzymes are really important to make sure you're taking, to make sure that the digestion is clearing properly, and to make sure you're not eating foods that irritate your gut. But irritate your gut, you're not going to be able to effectively build muscle mass. Nextly, we look at the rest of your diet. You want to focus on having the majority of your carbohydrates post-workout and having some pre-workout. Also should be using an intra-workout drink and making sure you're well hydrated when training. So the intra-workout drink that I actually use is 25 grams cyclic dextrin. I have 200 milliliters of pomegranate juice for extra carbohydrates and some vitamins and minerals, and that's like mixed together. And that's a 2-to-1 ratio of dextrose, different form of carbohydrates, fructose, versus cyclic dextrin. Secondly, I'd have 20 grams of essential amino acids, which aid recovery and muscle building to get jacked. Thirdly, I'd have gluten in, I'd have 20 grams of that to aid in terms of digestion, gut health, and nervous system. And then we also have creatine in there for 5 grams, which is essential in terms of power output, building muscle, actually staying leaner, and also cognitive function. So take creatine kits. So from there, that's what intra-workout stack looks like. Over the rest of the day, I just try and split my meals out 2 to 3 hours apart. And if I'm honest, this is way more difficult than contest prep diet. Because why? You feel like you're not making progress. It's like fucking groundhog day every day. You've got to go in the lift, go into the gym, beat yourself up, go out, eat more than you want to eat, feel like you're turning into a marshmallow. But unfortunately, if you want to build significant amounts of muscle mass and actually look different, you have to go through this process to get there. Because you can't stay thick skin shredded all year round and build muscle mass, it just won't work. So you have to go through this process, and then also it's an opportunity to really actually improve your metabolism. Because if you can take your calories up to 5,000, 6,000, for example, and start to maintain weight there, that means probably you can drop to like 3.5 and you'll start dropping body fat really, really quickly. And this is a really important thing to understand, that this is one of the ways to make it easier for you when you diet next time, is by having a higher set point of food when you're in the growth phase. Because when you come to the fat loss phase, you can diet on middle food, which ultimately is the goal, because then you don't even feel like you're sacrificing anything. So this is the key thing I'd recommend to everyone, and why you should have a cyclical approach to training. Once you first get lean in the position you want to be in, then you come to building muscle, to make sure that you go through the growth phase. Now, when you start a bulking situation, a growth phase, have to be lean, you have to have abs to start. If you're fat when you try and start bulking, you're just going to end up super fat, because the higher body fat percentage gets, the more predisposition the body has to gain more body fat. So this is a really, really important thing to understand. And my advice to anyone doing this is it's really important, even more so, to have a coach in this process. So I have a coach taking me through this process now. And to be honest with you, kept me from wanting to pull the plug in to start dieting because I just feel uncomfortable at this weight. And your self-confidence goes, you feel like you don't work out, even though you're jacked and you're way bigger. And it's just a mind game. And it says in dieting is a mind game, growing is a mind game. And the true beauty and most important thing in life is controlling your own mind. And this is one of the gifts that fitness can give you. So this is my growth story. This is where I'm at right now. The biggest struggles for me right now is just continuing to stay in the zone. And you have to stay in the marinating the muscle phase for a while. Like if you take your body weight up really quickly and then come down really quickly, you're probably going to lose a lot of muscle mass you have, because your body's not really held onto it for that long. So this is generally on the process. It's a process where you learn a lot about yourself, your habits, and you can also improve your body a hell of a lot. So enjoy the training from it, make the most of it, get jacked. If this was interesting and you want to hear another episode in regards to what I'm doing more with the growth phase, drop messages on Instagram and LinkedIn, be interested for any feedback. Make sure you leave a 5-star review on the podcast, and we'll see you next episode. Jason.